All right, today we're going to dive into this really fascinating story from the world of AI. It's called the DreamBees Benchmark. And what's so cool about it is that it starts with this, seemingly simple problem that then becomes incredibly complex. But the solution? Well, it turns out to be surprisingly simple. So check out this quote from the developer who is right in the middle of all this. It just perfectly captures that feeling of, both frustration and that aha moment of discovery. I mean, they thought they were just chasing a simple software bug, right? But it turns out they ended up questioning something as big, as fundamental as time itself. And that's really the journey we're going to go on today. So where does it all start? Well, it begins with something that sounds pretty fun and honestly kind of straightforward, a karaoke app. You know the deal, you've got lyrics on a screen, you've got timestamps to sync them up with the music. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Okay, so here was the actual problem. This AI model, its whole job was to sync lyrics. But whenever it hit a song that had one of those long, loud instrumental intros, just guitars, drums, no singing yet, the model would just break. It would completely fail. Without any words to latch onto, it was just totally and completely lost. Now, the first instinct naturally was to think, okay, the model just isn't very good at detecting voices. Simple enough. But the real issue, oh, it was so much deeper than that. It was almost philosophical. This wasn't just some technical glitch in the code. It was a fundamental conceptual problem. And this slide really lays out that huge shift in thinking. On one hand, you have the obvious guess. The AI is just bad at finding vocals. But the reality, whoa. It was that the model wasn't just missing the words. It was literally losing its entire sense of time. And somehow, those two things were completely connected. And this is the core insight of the whole story. See, for this specific AI, the meaning it was looking for in that audio file was the human voice. That's all it cared about. So when that voice disappeared during an instrumental part, the model's entire timeline, its whole understanding of what comes next, it just vanished. Poof. For this machine, time itself was anchored to meaning. So once they figured that out, it led to a complete 180 in their strategy. Instead of trying to build a smarter, more complex AI, one that could understand music theory or tell the difference between a guitar solo and a drum fill, the developer decided to do the exact opposite. And the new plan was just so elegant. The thinking was, why spend months and months trying to make the model smarter when we could just make the world it lives in simpler? The goal wasn't about teaching the AI what an instrumental is anymore. Nope. It was about making sure it never, ever got lost in the first place. So you might be asking, how do you even do that, right? How do you give a machine a constant sense of time, especially when there's nothing meaningful happening for it to track? Well, the solution had less to do with writing sophisticated code and a whole lot more to do with just brute force logic. And get this, the fix was surprisingly manual, super simple, really. During a song's instrumental intro, they just added a timestamp every 15 seconds. Those little silent gaps you hear between verses? Yep, those got tagged. And that long, fading silence at the very end of the song? That got tagged too, all the way to the finish line. Basically, the AI was never left alone in the quiet again. It was constantly being fed this stream of simple, regular signposts. You can think of these timestamps like a lifeline, or even a pulse, just this steady beat that gave the model a continuous thread to follow, all the way from the beginning of the song to the very end. And this whole experience, it turned into such a powerful lesson. The real problem wasn't that the silence was empty. It was that it was treated as if it were empty. So the solution? It was to take that emptiness, that silence, and actually turn it into useful data. So the big takeaway here is pretty clear. The AI didn't need to go to music school and learn what an instrumental is. No, it just needed its sense of time to keep on ticking, to be uninterrupted. The solution was never about adding more intelligence. It was all about ensuring continuity. And so what started out as this super frustrating glitch in a simple karaoke app, it actually became a new standard, a benchmark for testing how well an AI understands time. That silence, which was the big problem, was transformed into the solution. And the project, DreamBees, well, it finally worked. Perfectly. And that really leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In this race to build bigger, better, ever smarter AI, maybe we sometimes overlook a more elegant approach. What if the best way to solve a really complex problem isn't always to build an even more complex mind to solve it, but instead to design a simpler, more predictable world for that mind to live in? It's definitely something to think about.